truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yeah. Again, I hate to sit here and keep saying not accurate.
I have no idea.
That's not true.
Again, not true.
That is not true. I don't like that guy.
Every accusation that's come, every case that's come, we've sued people, we've opened ourselves up for investigation, we've opened ourselves up for inquiries.
After years of telling the same lie, Lance Armstrong has crafted an incredible technique of holding back information, redirecting questions, and soothing suspicions. So much so that he had go-to phrases and gestures that he consciously or unconsciously used quite often when confronted with the truth. The goal with LieStrong is to educate people and show them some of the things to look for in a person's body language that may reveal whether they're being honest, holding back pertinent information, or if they're just uncomfortable or possibly being dishonest. When Lance is being honest about a yes or no question, he simply says yes or correct, with no validating follow-ups. He's relaxed, he doesn't stare, and his movements are fluid, not stiff or jerky. We know now his answers to the following questions are true. Pay attention to the expression on his face, the movement of his head, and the direction of his eyes. Everything here is as it should be.
You did call him, did you not? Yes.
Did you actually speak to him?
Yes.
Did you speak with Stephanie McIlvaine before her deposition?
Yes.
You attended the deposition of Miss Betsy Andrew, did you not?
Correct.
Is that true?
That is true.
Yes.
That's what he looks and sounds like when we know for sure he's telling the truth. Now, let's see what he looks and sounds like when he's not telling the truth. When a person lies when asked a yes or no question, they will usually follow it with a validation word or phrase, sometimes after a short pause. For example, did you break the cookie jar? No, absolutely not. In the deposition, when answering yes or no questions, he uses several favorite words and phrases to help validate his answers. We know by his own admission these answers are all false. So let's take a look.
Do you deny the statements that Miss Andrew attributed to you in the Indiana University Hospital?
100%. Absolutely.
Is it your testimony that Mr. Andrew was also lying when he said that he heard you say those things regarding your prior use?
100%.
Do you also deny what Mr. Andrew said regarding those statements?
100%.
Did he just make that up too? Is that not true?
Totally false.
Do I have remorse? Absolutely.
You may have noticed his mouth was saying yes while his head shakes no. His verbal statements don't match up with the nonverbal statements. Let's take another look at these clips, this time with the sound down when he answers.
Do you deny the statements that Miss Andrew attributed to you in the Indiana University Hospital? Is it your testimony that Mr. Andrew was also lying when he said that he heard you say those things regarding your prior use? Do you also deny what Mr. Andrew said regarding those statements?
Do I have remorse?
When lying, misdirection is a common tactic, and one of the most popular among those tactics is the nervous laugh. Sometimes it's done to buy some time to think. Other times it just jumps out because the person is nervous, or they don't like the answer they're going to have to give. Remember, when the question is serious, there should be no laughing.
Was that accurate?
Again, I hate to sit here and keep saying not accurate, but
Do you know if he was referring to the Indiana hospital room statements?
I have no idea.
I can produce 10 people to say that you took EPO.
again, not true. And the other thing...
In this next clip, Oprah asks Lance if he owes an apology to David Walsh. Let's take a look at his reaction and see if you think he really feels he owes David an apology.
The Tyler Hamiltons, the Floyd Landises, the M. O'Reillys. I owe them apologies. Whenever they're ready, I will give them.
Do you owe David Walsh an apology?
That's a good question.
Lance Armstrong has told the same lie so many times, he's created little setups he performs to lengthen, shorten, or distract from the information he's asked for. He'll begin counting up facts, always starting with his thumb. This happened on this date, this happened on that date, and this happened on this date. Or, we sued them for this, we sued them for that, and we sued them for this, and we won every time. He brings those facts in to help build his case. He'll refer to specific situations or occasions, or use his hand in a chop motion to slowly hit every word in a statement, all to draw the questioner away from suspicion and to bring any further questioning to a halt if possible.
People, and I've not in the past been great with when riders leave teams or relationships end.
Well, if I've never taken performance-enhancing drugs, I never would have told a doctor that I took performance-enhancing drugs. Therefore, they never would have written down in any records that I'd taken performance-enhancing drugs.
Every accusation that's come, every case that's come, we've sued people. We've opened ourselves up for investigation. We've opened ourselves up for inquiries.
How could it have taken place when I've never taken performance-enhancing drugs? If it can't be any clearer than I've never taken drugs, then incidents like that could never have happened. Okay. How clear is that?
On one occasion, while building a barrier, just out of habit, he pulls his thumb up and looks at it. He realizes there's no reason for it to be there, so he moves it back quickly and even moves his head back a little bit. And he continues talking like nothing happened.
Why would they say these things that you say are not true?
I ask myself that every day. And it comes down to, certainly I've surrounded myself with, at times.
He's telling the truth here, but there are quite a few things that tell me he's holding some things back. Let's talk about that. Many times when a person knows more than they're telling you, they'll close their mouth really tightly so you can just barely see their lips. And that will happen between phrases or chunks of information the person's giving you. Sometimes this can be confused with what we call disappearing lips. When that happens, you can't see any lips at all, and that's caused by an incredible amount of stress.
One big lie. I know the truth.
What were you doing that for? What was that?
That was just more defiance.
More defiance.
Out there, the truth isn't what I said.
For 13 years.
This part of the interview is a masterpiece of body language and microexpressions. I'll decode this as we go along.
So why now admit it?
That's the best question.
It takes him 6.3 seconds to come up with an answer to the best question. Here we see disappearing lips from stress, and he's trying to remember one of the answers he's rehearsed for a question just like this one, if not this very question. At the same time, his limbic system is taking over and trying to keep his mouth shut so he doesn't say something he shouldn't, because now he's talking freely about something he's lied about for years.
I don't know that I have a great answer. I will start.
Oh, he knows he doesn't have a great answer. Not for Oprah anyway, but for Lance, it's the perfect answer. And he knows exactly what he's going to say, and it's calculated. And right now, his body language is going to tell you exactly why he's doing this interview.
My answer by saying that this is too late. It's too late for probably most people.
Did you catch it? No? All right, let's watch again. This time, pay attention to his mouth.
My answer by saying that,
You see how the left side of his mouth goes up almost in a little smile, and his nostrils slightly flare? That's a micro-expression, and that one means contempt. As his nostrils stop flaring, his contempt turns into happiness. Now I wonder why that is. Let's watch with that little smile one more time.
my answer by saying that, this is too late. It's too late for probably most people.
Probably for most people who wanted to sue him. Because in most cases, the statute of limitations has run out. What about that look in his eye? Does he look vengeful? Does he look vindictive? What do you think?
This is too late. It's too late for Probably most people.
This is one of my favorite parts of the interview because it reminds me of my wife when she's being sneaky or trying to tell me something she's been discussing with her girlfriends but doesn't want me to know she's been discussing it with her girlfriends. And it makes me almost laugh because I can see Oprah thinking about this question because she and her girlfriends have been talking about it. When she says there's been a lot of talk, that's the key and the cue to what she's been doing. That little indentation in the bottom of your neck here, that's called the suprasternal notch. When women experience something that's emotionally heavy for them, like hearing about a child that's sick or a family member being hurt or sick, they'll touch the suprasternal notch. When girls are gossiping, and one of the girls doesn't know what the gossip is, she'll touch her suprasternal notch and say, "What's the gossip?" Oprah even looks at her fingernails because she's trying to be nonchalant about asking the question. Watch this and see what you think.
Certainly people are discussing, there's been a lot of talk about why you're doing it, and what you were going to say and how you were going to say it. What was your intention or hope that would come out of it?
Here's one you rarely see. It's known as stress mouth, but I call it monkey mouth because it makes the person doing it look like a monkey. People do this when a horrifically embarrassing situation comes up and they have to discuss it, and they can't get away from it. They have to sit right there and discuss it in detail. It looks like this.
That's sick.
When you look at that,
That's sick.
Let's take a look at the buildup and the situation he's in that causes him to react this way.
It's also about the faith that people have put in me over the years. So all of that would be erased. So I don't need it to say in a contract, you're fired if you test positive. That's not as important as losing the support of hundreds of millions of people.
and here we are in that moment.
Yep.
It feels like self-prophecy almost.
Yeah, it's that's sick.
When you look at that, what do you think?
It's just, I don't like that. I look at that and I go, this guy's I don't like that guy.
In body language, there's no one move or one cue that tells you someone is lying or telling the truth. The same goes for the conversation you're engaged in. Always look for more than one cue or tell before making a decision about someone's behavior. When interviewing or interrogating, I pay attention to the cluster rule. Some refer to it as the rule of threes. For example, if the person you're talking to has their arms crossed, it doesn't mean a thing in and of itself. However, if they start to frown just a little bit, look down at their feet. If their feet are pointed toward the door, you can use that as your third cue. One of two things is happening here. They have little or no interest in what you have to say, or they've got to wrap things up because they have to be somewhere else really soon. Hopefully it's not both. Using the rule of threes, see if you can spot a cluster as Oprah asks Lance a question.
Last Wednesday night, Travis Tygart, CEO of USADA, told 60 Minutes Sports that someone on your team offered a donation, which USADA did not accept. He said it was over $150,000. Were you trying to pay off USADA?
No.
Did you see it? It's a cluster of three, and that tells me Lance is preparing to be untruthful. Let's watch again.
Which USADA did not accept. He said it was over
A nervous laugh, he clears his throat and crosses his legs. To top it off, he shakes his head yes as his words say no.
That's not true. That's not true. That's not true.
That is not true?
That is not true.
Here's the classic Armstrong setup. He just took time to think. His hand comes out. He doesn't count, but he does refer to a large number. He throws in a couple of what seem to be facts. He pauses briefly, looks Oprah right in the eye. He asks an open-ended question, pauses, and denies one more time.
And in the 1,000-page reasoned decision that they issued, there was a lot of stuff in there.
Yes.
Everything was in there. Why wasn't that in there? Pretty big story. Oprah's not true.
Let's take a close look at this clip. I'll decode it as we go along.
How did it all work?
After that question, he's got to slow things down just a little bit. He's getting ready to change moods and modes. So he scratches his head, gives himself time to think, and prepares to answer.
I viewed it as very simple.
He locks eyes with Oprah, pauses, and that lets her know he's going to be serious. Then he starts up with distancing language. He calls drugs things.
I mean, you had things that were oxygen-boosting drugs, for lack of a better word, or way to describe it.
Oprah understands what's going on here. She doesn't realize her head is tilted back just a bit, and her nose is crinkled just enough to show a hint of disgust. When she realizes she's looking down her nose at Lance, she instantly pops her head forward.
Incredibly beneficial for performance or endurance. Incredibly beneficial for performance or endurance. Incredibly beneficial for performance or endurance sports, whether it's cycling or running or whatever. And that's all you needed.
People use distancing language to distance themselves from their lie, or they'll distance themselves for something they're uncomfortable talking about. In this example, Lance didn't say, "That's all I needed." He said, "That's all you needed."
I mean, my cocktail, so to speak, was only.
This is a classic Lance Armstrong setup to lie. He uses the word only to make the number of drugs he took seem less important. Then he gets that thumb out and starts counting.
EPO, but not a lot.
EPO stimulates red blood cell production, and that increases the blood's oxygen carrying capacity.
Transfusions.
Blood transfusions are a pretty big deal.
And testosterone.
Did you see what happened with his jaws? Let's watch that again.
And testosterone.
Watch for him to clench. Right there.
And testosterone. And testosterone.
He didn't want to say that, although it was a rehearsed answer. You can tell it's a rehearsed answer because he answered so smoothly. There were no disappearing lips, and compared to the rest of the interview, he's speaking very quietly. That's another thing people do when they distance themselves from a lie or something they're uncomfortable with.
Which in a weird way I almost justified because of...
He knows for a fact every bit of what he's getting ready to say is not true. It's goofy, so he acts goofy.
Because of my history, obviously, with having testicular cancer and losing... Thought, surely I'm running low.
It may be a few months from now, or it may be a few years from now, but you're going to hear this conversation again. He's prepared for this one, and he's rehearsed for this one. He knows this is a big deal, so his limbic system locks him down. He doesn't move much, and he tries to look Oprah in the eye as much as possible.
And she said to me, you can do it, under one condition, that you never cross that line again. And
The line of drugs.
Yes. And I said, you got a deal. And I never would have betrayed that with her.
There it is. He said, I never would have betrayed that with her. Is a transfusion considered a drug? Maybe not. I guess we're going to find out.
It's a serious, it was a serious ask.
You see how tightly he's clutching his arm? His arm is crossed, but his hand is on his arm. That's called self-soothing. He needs something to hang on to. Look how tightly his arms are crossed, and look how close they are to his body. The same for his legs. They're really tight, and they're really close to the body. His arms and legs are doing that for the very same reason his shoulders are pointed downward. He's trying to make himself smaller and harder to see. His brain is trying to get him as far away from Oprah as it possibly can, because he knows he's doing something wrong. As this clip plays out, pay attention to how far he is away from Oprah, how small he looks, and how quietly he's speaking. To an untrained eye, this is a tough one, but there's your cluster from the rule of threes, plain as day. And if that doesn't do it for you, there are about 4 hours worth of micro gestures and micro expressions you could look at, just in this one little clip.
It was a serious commitment. She gave me her blessing. If she would have said, no, I don't like this idea, I would not have done it. But I gave her my word, and I did stick to it.
Friedrich Nietzsche said, the end of a melody is not its goal, but nonetheless, had the melody not reached its end, it would not have reached its goal either. One day soon, we'll be hearing Lance Armstrong's music again, and songs from many others just like him. Some will be short, some will be long. We'll love some of them, and some of them will pass right by us and we won't even realize we've heard them. Or will we?